Hey guys, welcome to the Dragon's Voice podcast. I am your host, Julie Reese Deans, and thank you so much for tuning in and watching. I don't know how many episodes we're into now. It's been so many, but it's been a heck of a journey. And if you want to keep following, make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel on YouTube. Follow us on Podbean because the audio format is going to be on there as well. And also make sure you follow us on Twitter at Dragon's Voice 20, and also like us on Facebook, Dragon's Voice Podcast. You know what to do. I don't, and I'll leave all the links in description in below. But without further ado, let's get on with it. It's traditional. We always get a guest in, and this one, I do believe we had a nice chat about it, and he said that if it wasn't for the Welsh League, his career, well, we don't know where his career would have gone, but he had so much success, I mean, with a particular team that I'm wearing right now, and with a few others, and we're going to talk about it. It's none other than Darren Ryan. Darren, how's it going, buddy?
Yeah, good. Obviously a pleasure to be asked to come on this podcast. And like I say, it's great to see you Barry Town top. Fantastic memories for me, spending time down there. And it's a big, like I said to you when you messaged me, Welsh football's been a big part of my career. And listen, I always look at the results. Do you know what I mean? At Barry, I went to watch him because obviously probably one of my best mates was involved there to recently, Lee Kendall, who was obviously best man at my wedding and that. So we are pretty close. So I have been to a couple of the Barrytown games, when they have been playing up towards North Wales. So it's good to see Gab. And I know Gab obviously played with me at Merthyr as well. Do you know what I mean? So, still see, it's great to see a couple of the supporters that were there when I went to watch them that were supporting when I was playing. So, it's great to see them and great to catch up. And like I say, I always look out for their results, and obviously Wolsey managing at Haverfordwest, Rhys Griffiths, lads who I played with. So really good to obviously keep in touch and obviously see how the league's progressing.
You know what? I'm gonna have to say this, and hopefully it doesn't make you be taken back by this. But I'm nearly 25 years old, right? And here's a bit of a story for you. I'm nearly 25 years old, but I was born, I think, a day after or day before the Dienerberg European game where Barry played, and obviously a few weeks later you guys played against Aberdeen in Barry.
Yeah.
So there was always that bit of a time gap thing, and I remember telling Gary Barney about going back a few years ago. So I told him the exact same story, and he just went, "Oh fucking hell, no wonder why it all went downhill." So I was like, "Oh, thanks," and he went, "Nah, it's no fun." But it was just such a coincidence because now it's like if they wanted to ask a certain question about '96 or something, all my mates at the football just go, "How old is Rhys?" And then they just answer the question straight away. But before Barrytown, of course, before TNS, before Merthyr, before you played for multiple Welsh clubs, you had your fair share of starting your career at Shrewsbury, and of course you were playing for Chester on 2 occasions, and Stockport and everything. So I always ask the same question, all for the players. How did your career start, and what was it like in the first 6 years of playing in English football, going to these various clubs?
Like I say, obviously, growing up, you play your grassroots football, and like I say, I think I was privileged to have a little bit of a professional career. Starting at Shrewsbury. Great. From my memories, I always speak about it. There were great memories. Do you know what I mean? Doing my scholarship, or YTS as it was known then, many years ago, they were great experience. And made, like I say, it set you up to go into the professional game, and obviously having that little bit of a career with Shrewsbury, Chester, Stockport, and Rochdale, and probably most. Along them lines, probably my most successful time, which I've done a podcast the other week with Stockport County, was probably my time at Stockport, because we were at the top of the first League One then. Some fantastic players, do you know what I mean? Like I say, that went on to play in the Premiership. Andy Priest, who played at Crystal Palace, who's managed in the Welsh Premier with Airbus, and I've been involved with Priesty. We're still big mates as well. So obviously, I've been part of his coaching team when he was at Northwich and at Airbus. And just like I say, it was hard. It was frustrating at times, not always being in the team and things like that. And, the role that I do now. I think I've got experience to speak to the younger players about the journey. It's never going to be a continuous, step up. You're gonna have bumps in the road, and it's how you deal with them. And probably from my experience, did I deal with them good? No, because I was a bit of a sulker and probably threw my toys out the pram. And I think, like I said, yes, it was frustrating, but the experience that I had of playing against really good players, do you know what I mean, in League One and League Two was really good. And like you said, that the level of players that I played with throughout that professional career was really good. And that's not just at Stockport, but we had some fantastic players at Shrewsbury, Chester, and then when I left Stockport to go to Rochdale, we had some players there. And then obviously I went back to Chester, but then my journey went to the Welsh Premier with obviously Barry Town, who were full-time, and it was a great opportunity for me to come into the Welsh system with a full-time professional club. But the experience, like I said, at league football was outstanding. My biggest, although I work at Wolves, I'm a massive Liverpool fan. So, and to get the chance to play at Anfield with Rochdale in the FA Cup was amazing. Do you know what I mean? It was like, to play in front of, to come on. I was subs that day, but to come on in front of 30,000 to play at somewhere where, it was overwhelming. Do you know what I mean? It was fantastic. It wasn't a great day because we got beat 7-0. And I think it was probably Jason McAteer's only goal he scored when he done me in a 1-2. And I thought, do you know what I mean? So, like I say, and Ian Rush, obviously a Welsh legend, do you know what I mean? And he was my hero growing up. I think he broke the FA Cup scoring record in that game. So, like I say, the experience as a player was brilliant. And probably the biggest disappointment was with Stockport when we got to the playoffs 2 years on the trot when I was there and lost in the semi-final, then lost in the playoff in the final, which was really, that was the biggest disappointment for me, is not with that team. And I spoke about it on the podcast. With that team, we should have got promoted. We should have gained promotion from that team. But really good, like you say, memories and experiences.
Do you know what? Because you mentioned Barry Town now, and of course we're going to get into the Barry Town story because it's inevitable. So 1996. The year I was born, and obviously there was the year that you came to Barry Town, and of course, it was sort of, the start of, well, not even the start, maybe 94 was the start of the glory years, but it was in the period of, where you were part of the glory years of where Barry Town were, basically dominating Welsh football and, having success in cup tournaments or Welsh League and getting the opportunities to play in Europe. So I wanted to know, because in terms of researching, it seems to be, I don't know where, because obviously the Aberdeen game was, always well talked about, but then you had Bergen and Budapest Stuttgart. But when did you come into the club? How did it happen? And so how did it all happen? And what was the game that you started for Barry?
I was at Chester. I'd gone back to Chester. I'd been, because years ago I didn't sign a contract at Rochdale, so I was literally on a week-to-week contract. And then obviously I got released. I went back to Chester with Kevin Radcliffe and Gary Shelton, who played at Bristol City, who was an assistant. And then I was on a month-to-month, and an opportunity come up to go to Norway. It was through an agent got me out to Norway. So I went out to Norway, and I stayed there, I think, 10 days, played a couple of games, scored a couple of goals, got offered a deal, but it just didn't feel right for me. I think, what was I then, 23, 24, and it wasn't what I looked at, and probably, I should have embraced that challenge. But what I looked at is, where was the club was literally on an island, and you drove 20 miles that way. It was the end of the island. It was, and I just couldn't foresee where I didn't probably embrace the challenge, and where now probably looking back I should have. And I thought this wasn't for me. I wasn't in Oslo. It was somewhere where I was stuck. I was going to be stuck on an island. Do you know what I mean? Probably, looking and thinking, oh, this is probably not for me. And I ended up not signing there. And then I remember getting back and having a phone call then off Gary Barnett. I think he'd spoken to Gary Shelton, who was the assistant at Chester, and asked me to come down and train. And I played in two friendly games. We played at an army camp. I can't remember that, but I remember getting there, and the lads were great. And I knew Colin Loss was there then. I knew Lossy because Lossy had been in at Stockport, so I knew Col. But the lads, Gary Barnett, they were fantastic. I remember playing in that game. Then coming down again, training and playing in another game. I can't remember who that was. And I remember going in the next day and ended up being offered a 2-year contract by Gary and by Barney and Paula. Do you know what I mean? The owner at the time. And I just thought it was a fantastic opportunity. I'd been made so welcome. The players were great, and I just seen it was a club going places, and I knew something big was going to happen there, which obviously it did, And I just felt that was the right time to move then.
And do you know, with that in mind, because you mentioned Paula O'Halloran, Neil O'Halloran's wife, who eventually became the chairwoman, as you say now. What was before we go on to the European competitions, the success and everything? What was she like as a chairwoman and someone to be around? Because the fans have always spoke so highly, a very lovely lady and everything. And but now, from the perspective of the fans, it's not going to be the same as the players. So what was your what was she like to be around?
I can't speak probably. Sorry. Yeah, I've got one. Sorry, I've got cheers. Sorry, asking, did I want a cup of tea? I can't speak highly of Paula. She was a real influence on me when I'm down there. Any problems, if you went to Paula, she would help you and support you as much as she, as much as she could. And I echo what the supporters said about her. She really supported me from the minute I signed to, like I say, and to the time I left. Do you know what I mean? And that she was, really, like I say, wanted to do well. Really driven. You could tell that she was really driven. With the team and that. And I think that was, probably with Barney. I think that was, transferred, into the team. Do you know what I mean? She was driven, very driven. I think Barney then was driven, and I think that made us driven. Do you know what I mean? We had a goal. We know what we wanted to do. We wanted to be, winning Europe, which we did. Then we wanted to win the league. Then we wanted to win. Literally, you went into every game knowing it was going to be. It was the teams we were playing. We had this reputation. Oh, they're getting this money. They get that. They live here. They live there. And every game was a cup final. But we, like I say, we had fantastic players. But she was the person who sat at the top for me, who was driven to want to be that team to succeed and to bring something to Barry Town as well, to the town. The supporters were great. The supporters were great with me. Do you know what I mean? And I think that was they, like I say, the support we used to get away from home was fantastic. Do you know what I mean? In the Welsh Premier, when it was, probably not at that stage that big a league. Do you know what I mean? To what it probably is now. Do you know what I mean? And it like I say, but she sat at the top and she drove the club from the top, definitely.
So when it came down to the summer of 1996, then where Barry were competing against those three teams, what was the preparation like for you under Gary Barnett to be going into the UEFA Cup, especially because I watch constantly. I don't know if you do, but it's a friend of mine. He runs this YouTube channel, which is the Barry Town Archives, and it's all the videos, the classic. And I thought, and there's videos that even I wasn't part of. I started supporting Barry in the early 2010s, and even I was like, nostalgic, and it was that feeling of seeing Barry play in Europe. So what was what was it like for you? Because you came into the squad for the friendlies and all of a sudden straight into European competition.
Yeah.
So what was the traveling? What was the event like for yourself, and what was the traveling like, and what was the teams like for you?
Yeah, I remember. I think I just it wasn't long that I'd signed, and obviously we played Dynaburg, didn't we, first, and we drew the first leg, didn't we, at home? And I was on the bench. I didn't get on. I don't. Did I get? I can't, do you know what? I think I might have got on in the first leg, but I was on the bench for the first 3 games in Europe. But listen, Barney was, I think, like a very good coach, and a very, with Richard Jones as well. They were very good tactically. I thought, like you say, we played. I remember if I talk about the Vesuvius game, we lost. We had people sent off, didn't we, in that game? Lost the game, but Barn, he had a game plan for the away games, and I thought he had a game plan for the home games, because he changed. If you remember, Dave O'Gorman didn't really play away games. If you look at them 3 games, but Dave was great, pacey, was really attacking, and he changed. He wanted us, the 2 games when you talk about probably is Vesuvius and Aberdeen. He wanted us to be still in the game. We knew that Budapest was going to be our game at home, but he went attacking, and to win 3-1 and to go through on penalties was brilliant. And he'd done the same with Aberdeen. His preparation and his, and he wanted us playing the right way. That's the first. When I look at Barry and even the teams, like, we were more a bit. We did play good football at Stockport, but we had 2 big centre forwards. We had Kevin Francis, who was 6'7", Preece, 6'4", so you're going to get balls in the box. Where Barney was very playing from. You talk about total football, but Barney wanted us to play through the thirds, play out from the back. You had he recruited players like Andrew York, who could play, Lloydie, very good on the ball, Terry as well, Richard Jones, good footballer himself, Lossy, Tony Bird that first year, really good footballer. Do you know what I mean? Like myself, it was we were a very technical team, and for me, it was good seeing that. Do you know what I mean? Like, I knew we were going to go to places like, no disrespect to teams in the West Premier, where the pitches weren't going to be lovely. Do you know what I mean? To play football on, but we knew we were going to go to. But listen, Barney didn't change his philosophy. Do you know what I mean? We still played how we wanted us to play, and I think his preparation for everything was done properly, and that's why I said it was led from the top. The preparation. The league helped us in that, because remember, they didn't let us play on the Saturday, did they? They give us the Saturday off, and we had preparation then to train, then to fly out, then to train at the stadium. Everything, all you couldn't ask for any more better preparation than what we were given by Paula, Barney. Chris Horse was part of that team as well. Do you know what I mean? They give us every opportunity to prepare. Everything was done right. The hotels, everything was done. To probably better than what I received at League One. Do you know what I mean?
And especially as well when we have to mention the Aberdeen game, because it's always mentioned to this day. Oh, he's highly celebrated, and it was David Gorman's goal at their ground, which is absolute wonder.
Oh, Richard Jones, you mean the one at Aberdeen?
Richard Jones, sorry, David. I get confused with those two.
Yeah.
So I show this to my Barrymates, and they just look at me going, Reese.
Yeah,
Richard Jones, that goal. I mean, oh my God, what a goal! But it was the home match that a lot of people talk about because of the weather. And it was the weather. Like, it was raining that day, but my God, was it a brilliant game? But you were there playing on it, and you almost, you gave Aberdeen a run for their money, basically, because it was a very. I mean, I still look at the highlights this year, and I'm thinking, the result is harsh on your side, because I thought that because there was only 2 goals away from you guys actually drawing, on the aggregate.
I think I always when we reflected at the game after. I remember after the game, because we all and we went up for a drink, and we were reflecting in the the place, the bar now where you all go, and we. I think they'd done it up a bit, because obviously there was 6,500 there, wasn't there? It was unbelievable. The stand behind the goal was fantastic. And I remember us all reflecting after. I think we probably lost that tie away. I think we went a bit, probably not as, if we did, we got back, what was it? Yeah, it was at times 1-1. I think they scored a late third goal. The third goal, I think, hurt. probably killed the tie a bit against them, because you look at their team, they had Scottish internationals, they had, it was Bulgarian internationals playing. Do you know what I mean? They had Billy Dodds, who was playing for up front, Dean Windass, who went on to play Premier League. Billy Dodds, who was a Scottish international. I think they had the Scottish. You look at that team. It was a team literally of internationals. Do you know what I mean? And to then take them to Jenner Park, and you're right. We run them close. To be fair, do you know what I mean? I think that I remember Dave scoring, and then I think we had a relapse. I think we then, instead of us going, listen, we've still got time to get back in the game, I think we went a bit more gung-ho, do you know what I mean? And then that opened up gaps at the back then. And then obviously they were, the two strikers for them were really good. And probably Dean Windass and probably Dodds was the difference between the two teams. And that's it. But we did, the atmosphere to play in that game was amazing, do you know what I mean? It was, like you said, the pouring rain, which probably, set the tone, and the atmosphere of the supporters, that game was fantastic.
And especially, sometime afterwards, I think it was a record, that was set because it was the furthest the Welsh team, regardless of Welsh teams in the English League, it was first Welsh Premier League side or Welsh League side ever gone further on into the UEFA Cup or the European Cup, whatever. So that was a bit impressive, and looking on the coverages, even when the BBC Wales used to cover it, they've always said that you were the team to beat. Everyone wanted to we want to beat Barry, and, and it's been like, nah, you're not. I know that. But, I mean, it's like TNS, even though I don't know what name they were going out at back then. But TNS Lance Fried, I think they were called. I think they had a bit of a run for their money, but there was one game that really stands out for me. Because it was around about the time Yvonne Williams was actually playing for you guys, and that was that 10-0 victory at Park against them. I mean, if you look at TNS now, you don't think they'll be the ones to put the 10 goals in the because of how far advanced they are. But going back when Barrytown were literally the team, and they put 10 goals in the back of TNS's net, and you were playing that day. I mean, that must have been one heck of a game, just to set an example of how far advanced you guys were as well.
Oh, definitely. I think, like you say, I think they were in the that was when I think Mike had just got involved with them, isn't it, Mike Harris? So I think they were obviously transitioning as well. But to play in that, and I don't know how many, I can't remember how many Avion scored. I think it was one game. It was one game I didn't score in. I'm sure I didn't score in that game. But Avion was. It's you're talking about, like I say, a top striker that went on to play league football, but to play in it was, like I say, it was, we had some really fantastic games, but that one was and I always remind Mike Harris, because obviously I went to TNS and, I live in Oswestry and I see him, and I, in the past I've always reminded him about that when he's mentioned about his team and everything. So I always, in the past I have thrown it into him about the 10-0 that we put on him when I was playing, and he come down to Jenner Park.
The thing about TNS though is, of course, we look. I want to ask you this, Phil, because I know you went on to play for TNS to Barry, but I wanted to know something. But because it's like now, of course, TNS far advanced, a heck of a team, can't fault them.
No.
But back then, how competitive was it for Barry and TNS to go head to head? Because I know they've appeared in cup finals against each other. I know TNS were only just behind Barry in terms of being first and second place, or maybe third. But how competitive were they during your time at Barry?
Yeah, I think it was the first year I'd signed. They've obviously TNS had beat Barry in the Welsh Cup final. I joined the season after that. The game where they beat them on. TNS had beat them, and they in the Welsh Cup final. So I joined the season after, and I think it was quite coincidence actually that we drew them in the Welsh Cup in one of the rounds, and we went there and I think we beat them 2-0. And listen, they were competitive. They were competitive games, and like you say, I think I played in one game where they did beat us 1-0 in a league game. But if I look at probably TNS around that time, they probably weren't the team that we had to beat. Do you know what I mean? It was you're looking at your bangers, and the one season was probably the first season was Ebervale. When Gilo had obviously left Barry and gone to Ebervale with John Lewis and David, and they'd recruited some some really good players. Do you know what I mean? And they were one of the teams that we were competing against, and Bangor as well. Do you know what I mean? I think they were one, especially the second year with Ken McKenna and them. Graham Sharp was manager, wasn't he, as well, that year? And I think they were one of the teams to compete with. And you had some, Real were good. TNS were in that bracket. I think Conway were a good team. Cumbrae, they were decent into Cardiff, into Cabletel. You had some really good teams. And it was always hard going. I always found it hard as well. I remember going to Carmarthen. Carmarthen was our place to go to. Do you know what I mean? As well, and that. But like I said, it's TNS obviously have really progressed and that, and now obviously Connah's Kiar. It's good to see, and Barry. It's good to see like this. You look now, it's not TNS running away with the league. Do you know what I mean? Which I think is good for the league. There's obviously, Barry there. You've got Bala, who are really, a good team now. You've got your Connah's with Jock, and, who's a mate of mine, Jock, Andy Morrison. So I know Andy, I speak to Jock now and again quite regular. And, I look now and I think, even when I managed at Newtown, I think, you knew the teams who you probably thought, right, we'll get 3 points here. But I look at the league now and I'm thinking the bottom can be, you can have a surprise result. Do you know what I mean? I think it's that is the league now, and that's what you want. You don't want teams just running away with it, or top two. You want teams that are good, like you say, the lower half teams that are competing with the teams at the top.
And especially as well where you compete with teams at the top. And but I think in your first maybe 2 seasons with Barry, you went undefeated in one of the leagues. I mean, you just ran away with the league title, and possibly, I don't know. I mean, you probably won the Welsh Cup and the Welsh League Cup as well. Flipping heck, I mean, I can't remember how many trophies, but it was that one season where you just literally ran away with the season.
Yeah, it was the first season. I was we won I think we won everything. I think we got to 100 odd points as well that year. We won the League Cup. I remember we beat Bangor. It was Bangor Aber. It went to penalties. It was, and it was a close game. That was, and then we won the Welsh Cup at Ninian Park then against Cumbrae. Then I think Cohen scored. Yeah, so we won the lot that. And it was listen, it was a fantastic achievement, especially after the European run and we'd had. So it was that was a fantastic. Fantastic year for us, and with a fantastic team as well. Do you know what I mean? I think, like I say, the 2 years I was there, some of the players, and then we recruited Danny Carter the second season, who was probably one of the best players to ever play in the league for me.
Yeah, because Danny Carter has always been praised by the Barry Town supporters, and he's always been given praise about, from the coverages I've been watching as well. And funny enough, I wanted to say this. I want to ask it from your opinion, because me and some of the guys have been talking about this. And I was talking to a mate of mine, Nigel, and he mentioned it was the Welsh League Cup final where it went to penalties.
Yeah.
And when you guys won it, he fled. He just ran on the pitch with you guys. He's like, yes. But he was telling me that there were 3 players, or maybe more, but he said the top 3 that he thought should have been called up for the Welsh team, and if not made just a cap. It was Danny Carter. Gary Lloyd obviously got the call up. But he said he should have been given, if not 5 or 10 minutes. And Williams. Those are the 3 players he said they should have been, because he went into a bit of a moment where he said that the Welsh League should have been some of these players who did put in the effort, given the call ups now. Do you agree? And would you say that some of the Welsh League teams, maybe back then during your time or during today's time, should be given a call up to Wales or whatever national teams? Because I know maybe 1 or 2 do, but in terms of Wales as well.
Yeah, I think Gary was he was like you say, Danny was one. I think Lloydie, I go on about, I've just talked about Danny Carter being one of the best players, attacking players in the league, but Lloydie was one of the best attacking fullbacks in the league, and he obviously got that one, that opportunity, and probably back then he, I think Gary, I don't know if he mentioned it in his podcast, but he probably had the chance to move on to a league club, and I think that would have probably kicked on it. Years ago, probably would have kicked on his international career. Avion went to play in the league. I'm not, definitely one of the best goal scorers that I played with, definitely. And I think now the league is getting more coverage. Do you know what I mean? It is still really, like you say, difficult. Do you know what I mean? To play top international football. You're talking about elite sport. Elite now at the top of their game. Premier League players. But the thing is, like you say, you're seeing a lot of Welsh Premier footballers moving into the Football League, aren't you? So, like you said, I think what I'm liking is you're getting a couple of the Swansea lads are going up. You're getting Swansea players going on loan in the Welsh Premier now, and Cardiff players going out on loan as well. So it's really good. And I try and sell the Welsh League. We play TNS. The under-23s will play TNS here at Wolves, but the only problem we have is the international clearance. Do you know what I mean? So, it's a competitive league. And like you said, it's, I think, yes, it's getting more coverage. But I think, like you say, the stepping stone probably will for them to go into, into league football to get that next step to international football as well. Do you know what I mean? So I think Danny Carter was born from London, so it'd have been difficult to play for Wales, him. He's a proper Cockney, Danny.
Yeah, he was my mate. Nacho said that, so I'm gonna blame it on him. So, but as the season progressed and everything, of course, you won the title, so Champions League. Lo and behold, back-to-back games against Dynamo Kiev, especially Shevchenko being, part of the squad, or he went on to, superstardom, as some people say. But when you guys drew Dynamo Kiev in the Champions League, what was you guys thinking? Well, here we go. Now this is going to be, a game that we got on our hands. So and especially when you guys went away to Ukraine now, what was the experience like of going to play Dynamo Kiev in their back garden in Kiev and in Ukraine now?
Listen, it was an unbelievable experience. It was the thing I think probably didn't help us that we didn't have, because they've been let back into Europe because they've been banned, haven't they? So we didn't really know a lot about their squad. And obviously it was, I don't know how many years they'd had obviously banned, but that was their first time coming in. We knew it was going to be difficult going out there. And I remember us, going out there and getting to spending I remember going to the hotel, and then the food wasn't. Kiev is a lot different to when we went in 97. Do you know what I mean? It's a lot different now, and it was very, like I say, I remember all of us, some of us couldn't eat the food and things like that. Do you know what I mean? It wasn't great. I talked about preparation before for them three. That was brilliant, and the hotel and everything was fine. It was just, it was a time where, like you said, the food, none of the lads were eating the food. Then we we played in their reserve stadium, which was, I think, 15. I'm not sure if it's 15 or 30,000. But listen, they were a good team. And to come away with just losing 2-0 was a fantastic result. And I think, like I said, we done ourselves proud out there. And obviously, you'll probably talk about the second leg where I just probably didn't do the team. I let myself down and probably the team down because obviously it was 0-0 when I got the red card. Do you know what I mean? And obviously that killed the tie then. Do you know what I mean? So that was another regret, which would haunt me in many years to come, regarding when I went to Haverfordwest and we had that fantastic year with me, Kendall, Wayne Jones, Lossie, do you know what I mean, Rhys Griffiths, and we got to Europe and then I was still banned. So I didn't have that opportunity then to obviously play in Europe for Haverfordwest. But like I said, they had some fantastic, Rebroff, was a fantastic, he played that game. But to lose 2-0 to a top European side was fantastic.
And did you play in the other Champions League rounds, so the following season?
No, I'd left then.
Yeah, because it was I was looking into it, and because, with a lot of coverages back in the day for Welsh football, it wasn't that details, that moment.
Yeah.
But so as soon as after, you've spent your time at Barrytown, obviously had some success, you went to TNS. So how did that come to fruition then? Was it because of Mike Harris, or was it because of someone else? What was the reason?
It was. I think my time at Barry had come to, like I said, I think, I've been there 2 years. I still had another year on me contract, but I just felt it was time to probably move on and to look at. I had a couple of opportunities what I spoke to other, to clubs, and I was to be fair, I was looking then to obviously move back nearer home, and listen. So I went a little bit back nearer home, and obviously TNS were then, obviously Andy Cale had been brought in then, do you know what I mean? Who, and I spoke to Andy, and I got to know him through that a little bit through that season, because he was at Real at the start, then went to TNS, and I liked what he was talking about, the project, and that they were obviously looking long term, do you know what I mean? And obviously I was looking a little bit to move to obviously move back home. So listen, I think the move was probably right for me and right for TNS at the time. Do you know what I mean? It was the right time to move, and I went to TNS, and like I say, I enjoyed my year there. It was I played with some other some great lads. Ken McKenna, I played with Ken up front, who went on to be the manager, and and obviously, like I say, I only lasted a year then, and obviously my wife then was South Wales. She didn't really settle in Oswestry, and then obviously fell pregnant, and obviously wanted to move back. So part of that was I stayed up there a year. She couldn't settle, and then obviously we went back down. We come back down to South Wales, and got obviously bought by Merthyr then. And I remember, I think the first game I got the paperwork went through, and I think the first game I was on the bench, it was against Barry in the Premier Cup.
Oh God, I bet you had a lovely reception, and he was like, "Oh, you should have come back to us. How dare you?" Because the rivalry between Barrytown and, I mean, a lot of people say about Barry and TNS, but I think the true rivalry is between Barry and Merthyr, because of you could say the politics, with English League, pro Welsh League, and obviously all the success. But I love it. I love that sort of rivalry. And because I got friends with Merthyr, so it sometimes it does bother me, sometimes it doesn't. But for you, when you went off to play for Merthyr, and obviously it was the first game in that, what was how intense was the rivalry then? Was it still a bit tense as it is probably today, or was it a bit less? But what was
I think it was. I noticed that we remember, because you might remember the game. They knocked us out of the Premier Cup the year when I was still at Barry, didn't they? When Ovi got sent off for handballing outside.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think it was 1-0. So it was I knew it was a big rivalry. But then obviously I went to Merthyr then, and we had, I think, obviously it was a lot of the back. Danny Carter was there. There was a lot of the Lossie was there. Who else was there then? I think Cohen Griffiths was there. So there was a lot of Barry ex-players who I played with who were at Merthyr. So we obviously knew, it was a big, like I say, rivalry between the two clubs. But obviously, what the rivalry was then, it was Newport as well. Where obviously Newport were coming up then, and that came when Newport got promoted. That kind of took over that rivalry, because Newport and Merthyr were then in the same obviously league. And then towards the end, because I signed there, and within a few days of me signing, Roger Gibbons, who signed me, got the sack, and then Jimmy Mullen come in. So he didn't really, he wasn't really. I remember having a conversation with Jimmy, and then obviously towards the end of that season, he loaned me out. I went to Mertyr's probably biggest rivals, which were Newport with Tim Harris. So I met, and then it was strange, because I'd obviously gone to Newport, literally spoke to Tim about agreeing, because I was on a contract, agreeing to go there, and then got brought back to Merthyr, and then within a day or 2 days, I think, of coming back, Jimmy Mullen got the sack and Keith Walker got the job, and then Keith said to me, "I want you to stay." So it was like, 1 minute I thought I was going back to Newport to be permanent, and then obviously I went I come back to Merthyr, and then I've signed a new deal to stay at Merthyr with Keith then. So and I was thinking, oh my God, I've been at Newport for a month. How are the fans going to accept that? But they were great then. But they were great. But then a year later, I eventually did sign for Newport. So it was, and I remember scoring. I remember scoring for Merthyr against Newport in the FA Cup and that. So, like you said, it was after I'd been there on loan. So, like you said, it's great memories, but you get to understand the rivalry then.
You mentioned, well, before the recording, you know, we mentioned Gavin Chesterfield, which is obviously Karen Barrytown. Well, probably one of, or if not the greatest manager Barrytown has ever had now, because of what he's done for the club. But a lot of people seem to forget he was a footballer. He was a player. Injury, you know, took the better of him. But I do remember it was a coverage. I saw a young Gavin Chesterfield playing for Merthyr Tydfil, and I thought, flipping heck.
Yeah.
this is a guy who managed Barrytown, flipping heck. So what was it like as a player? You know, what was it like as a teammate as well?
Yeah. I think Gav's, you know, you listen to his interviews now, and when I speak to him, Gav's very intelligent. He was, you know, we had a great bunch and a great, you know, between the lads, great banter and that. And he was, you know, he liked that. Gav liked that as well. Do you know what I mean? He was like, you know, steady player. But like you say, he's very, you know, you can tell, like you say, he's you can tell he studies the game and he knows what he wants. And but when I watch Gav now, like I say, I don't, you know, I catch up with him now and again. But when I watch interviews, I find him very honest. You know, he'll be honest about his team. He won't, and he won't say, "Oh, we deserve to win. It was this decision. It was that decision. Or this, he should have done better." He's very honest in his debrief for games after. When I watch him on Scorio, do you know what I mean? And I think he's very honest. That's what he was. Yeah, he liked to joke, like all of us did. Like you say, you can tell he's very intelligent, and like I say, the job what he's done for not just for the club, but for the town, really. Do you know what I mean? It's fantastic, do you know what I mean? And like you say, I'm sure he'll be there for many years to come.
Yeah, I've always referred to him, and only in my opinion, I don't know about the lads, the other supporters, but I've always called him the Brian Clough of Barrytown. Maybe not as rational or, you know, a bit in your face moment, because we all know what Brian Clough was like. But there's something about Gavin that makes me think of Brian Clough. I think it's just the football knowledge and the success and, you know, the drive that, you know, he gets the players going and that. And especially as well when he was playing, you know, when he was manager at a time where Barrytown probably couldn't pay their players, he managed, you know, he convinced all the players that played for him. It's like, play for me. Don't play for the money. Play for me and you will get that. And his history with the club, you know, with the club and the team, you know, he's a man of his word, and you know he
will. Definitely. And I think, like I say, I spoke to Lee Kendall quite a bit, do you know what I mean, who played for Barry, who worked with Gav, and like I say, he's man management, and Lee speaks highly of him, do you know what I mean, on, you know, like I say, so I think he's well respected in the Welsh, you know, the Welsh game, and so he should for what he's done for the club and the town, and for what he's done for Welsh football.
And it's so funny because even though I've known Gav, he's known me since I was a teenager, right? And he's known me in the stands, you know, and he knows I could be a bit of a big mouth as well because of my support. But it's like, even though he knows me personally, and I think that's what the relationship between the fans and the players got, and what you guys had back in the day, because you may know Colin Churchill, or you know.
I know that. Carl.
But and the thing is, even though he knows me personally and I know him personally and everything, but every time I'm in the presence with Gavin, I just go, man, you know, what a manager! He's like a god to us because of what he's done. And even though, you know, he like I said, knows us personally, but it's just that thing in the back of your mind, or that feeling, you know, of
Yeah.
thinking, this is a man who should get the respect, you know, he deserves it. And my God, you know, even to this day,
Oh, definitely.
some of us probably go on knees and doing that, like, we're not worthy.
I think I think the club's always been like that. You can see, like say, even when I come up to watch a couple of games, you know, even the supporters that come up, the interaction between the supporters and, you know, the player, you know, like you say, when I was playing, the interaction between the supporters and the players after the game in the bar was great. Do you know what I mean? It's probably a bit different now because they have all protein shakes and everything, but generally, you know, when you know, all the players, but you know, when we were playing, we were, like you say, we would be in the clubhouse, we'd be drinking with the supporters, and that would probably go on to about 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Do you know what I mean? So we wouldn't. Do you know what I mean? So I think, like you said, we had that relationship with the supporters. And you're right. Listen, I used to hear Colin and that shouting at me during the games and all that, and I just, you know, I give him that look, as you know. Do you know what I mean? Not just Colin. I'm only like other supporters. Do you know what I mean? If you weren't pulling your weight, do you know what I mean? You'd know about it. They let you know.
You know from Colin.
Yeah, they let you know.
I mean, it's like Ian Johnson, Jason Pauling, Chris Pauling. The old man. It was, you can go on. I mean, it is such a community club. It's absolutely amazing. And that's where, you know, most of them are still there, you know, and it's like sometimes when, before COVID, you know, I know you said some of the players have their protein shakes. Some of them do, some of them, you know, don't drink. But but some of the players, you know, I mean, there have been on some occasions where if I had a bit of money in my back pocket and the players did well, I felt bad for the players. I just go, "Oh, come on, I'll buy you a pint," and they said,
listen, we used to have it all the time. Do you know what I mean? And it was good. You know, sometimes they got to let that emotion come out, and you got to understand that. Do you know what I mean? And like you said, we never, there was, and I don't see it now anyway, but there was never separation between players and supporters. We used to have our food up somewhere different, but then we used to go into the main lounge bar and mingle with the supporters then, do you know what I mean? And catch up with them. It was, you know, and I lived just down the road, you know, when I was playing there, and I used to go out with a lot of go up to the club or go out with some of the supporters in the week, you know, and if I was staying down on Saturday night, I go out with some of the supporters around Barry on a Saturday night, do you know what I mean? So I got to be friends with quite a lot of them, you know, in Barry.
And probably last question about Barrytown, and it's one of the times where, because you've been bouncing to different Welsh clubs, you know. Because you know, you went for Merthyr, then you went to Newport, then you went for Carmarthen, Haverfordwest, you know. It was a bit all over the place. However, was there ever a feeling of I'd like to go back to Barry, even if it was for a month or a year? Was there ever in the back of your mind to think, I'd like to go back?
I was close to re-signing when Sticks was in charge. Dave Hughes, sorry.
Oh, Dave Hughes.
Dave, yeah. So I was close. I think, where was I? That might have been.
Wait a minute, if Dave Hughes, so this has got to be 2004.
I'm sure it's his second. I think when Colin, it was, you know, the season that Colin come in, Colin Addison, because I knew Colin, to help Dave. I think it was the season that they started. I think it was the season they started. That season, he come in towards the end, Colin, didn't he? And then they started the season, and it went, and then it was Dave. Sorry, Dave took over. It was when Dave was manager, and I was close to coming back. And I spoke to Dave, and then I don't know. I think some things were happening behind the scenes, which I wasn't really. You know, obviously, you know, leaving probably another. I don't know if it was Haverfordwest then.
It was Haverford. I got it on here on my notes.
It would have been Haverfordwest then. I just thought, no, I'm going to stay where I am. But I did speak to Darren, and I was really close in thinking I might rejoin them.
And speaking of, you know, Haverfordwest, you know, you after Newport County, you went to Carmarthen for a season, and this was, I think it was this Carmarthen. Were they in the Welsh Premier League at the time? 2002.
Yeah, I'd been out. What it was, I'd been out. I think I'd been out about 6 months, 7 months with me knee at Newport. My knee was like, you know, I'd had tendonitis, patellar tendonitis, and I'd had injections and that, and it wasn't getting. I couldn't probably have done that level. And I remember speaking to Tim, and Tim because you couldn't go on loan, he had to release me from a contract. So I went to Carmarthen to the end of the season with Tommy Morgan, and obviously went there to the end of the season. Got some game time then, and then I remember obviously speaking to Darren in the summer then, because obviously Colin lost Lee Kendall and that were all down there, and then obviously signed for Haverfordwest then. So it was just went for Carmarthen because I was like just coming back from being out for 6 to 7 months with my knee problem, and then obviously I went to Haverfordwest, which I had a really enjoyable and successful time there.
And after we mentioned briefly about Haverfordwest were playing in European competition, and you unfortunately didn't get to play because you had that red card a few years prior, which is I think they should. Do they still have that rule? Do they still?
I'm not sure.
Because I always believed, if that was that case, right? If you got a red card in UEFA Cup, let's just say, or the Europa League, and then 5 years later, then you play again in Europa League and you get. I think you say, "Oh no, come on, it's been 5 years now."
Yeah, exactly.
Come on, it's 5 years now. Flip
it.
Don't. Oh, that's like holding a grudge in a divorce. That is, it's unnecessary.
Definitely.
But you briefly went to Cardiff Grange Quins. So what was that about? How did that happen?
Paul Giles, that's what happened.
Oh, Paul, is it?
Listen, I didn't play under Gilo because obviously he left. But over the years, I got to know him, and he like I say, a good friend. Do you know what I mean? And obviously, when I played at Merthyr, he was number 2 to Keith Walker. So, like I said, and then obviously Gilo went to the Quins, and then I was finding it a little bit. My knee was playing up, and I was just thinking I probably can't do Welsh Premier anymore. Do you know what I mean? They were in a league below. They were quite ambitious. I met with Gilo, and I met with the owner, the person who was obviously pumping the money in. If I'm being honest, they offered me quite a good deal. Probably more than I was getting at Haverfordwest in the Welsh Premier. Do you know what I mean? At that stage, with other things. So now I'm thinking, I'm living in Pontypridd. It's not far from me. We're local. They're playing local. The Welsh League. So we're not travelling to North Wales or anything. And they had some good. They had some good players. Do you know what I mean? It's like you said, there was. I think Kurt Nogan and that were there then. Do you know what I mean? We had some. I'm looking at the players thinking, we got to get out of this league. So I ended up signing there and probably went because I'm coming towards the end of my career and probably think I could get I went for the money in the end. Do you know what I mean? But I did see the ambition there. Did see where they wanted to go and take the club, but it was always going to be probably, like say, not to start reducing me playing time really, because my knee was really giving me a lot of trouble at that time.
And the way I think about, before I mention Newtown, because you sort of finished your career with Newtown as a player, but Cardiff Grange Quins, the only reason why I think about them, because I know they played in the Welsh Premier League before, but the way I think about them is because of my experience as a Barry Town supporter, they were in, I don't know if it was Division 1, maybe even Division 3 at the time. It was just the fact that every time people say, the players that they have, or they played in the Welsh Premier League, and then in Division 3, maybe some people looked at Barry Town like that. I don't know, but I looked and went, really? And it's like, because I think this, because I know they folded now, bless them, but it was just, I think the status of the team was, it wasn't as, what's the word? I'll say big, but it's not the word. If you know what I mean, it's not they're not targeting that.
No.
So it's always to me that every time I think of Cardiff Grange Quins, I always think of that time where there was me, Ian Johnson, Jason Pauly, and Ashley Cox. There was his brother Ryan, and there was, I think it was another group of us, but because he was at the Cardiff.
It was. Where Inter Cardiff used to play. The Athletic State, Letchworth. Yeah,
in Letchworth Stadium, I call it. Yeah. And in the future, it will be the first home game would be played back in Europe. But I remember we went to the very far back of the stand, and we were just, I think most of the supporters that were there were just Barry Town supporters that stayed with the club. So it was mad to think, and we beat them 4-0, and we went up in Division 3 as champions. But it was just so bizarre to think Quins in that position.
Well, I think that year they got promoted. When we got promoted, because we went up, I remember Danny Carter signed, Craig Lima, Eston Chiverton. You know, we had some. That was that season. I think it was a season I left, because I left after about 2 months, 3 months. That was a season when obviously then they had the money troubles, didn't they? And they ended up getting. I think they played a lot of the young lads, didn't they, towards the end of the season just to get through the season. But they signed some really big players that first season. But obviously they had the money troubles then.
And so, of course, you left Cardiff Grange Quins, and then Newtown came calling. So this was probably around about the time. Was you doing your UEFA license badges or something like that? Because you came. Did you become a coach or a manager sometime into your career with Newtown as a player coach?
Yeah. I'd done me C license while I was down. I think that might have been a year or so. I'd done me level 1. So then I went to obviously Newtown. I knew Roger Priest. Me and Rog played together at Chester, so I knew Rog. And talking about, I was living down South Wales, a couple of obviously family issues, split up with my wife, and I wanted to move. It was time for me to move back home. So obviously I went and signed for Newtown with Rog, played a few games toward the end of the season. I remember thinking, right, that's it. And I remember phoning Rog saying, Rog, that's me done. I can't do it anymore. And I think, but then he persuaded me, can you just come and play when, and just do one night training and play when you can. And I said, well, yeah, I'll sign for you, but I can't obviously, really say to you that I'm going to be playing week in, week out. And obviously they started the season, had a bad run. And I remember, I got to know the chairman then and the reserve manager, because obviously then Roger ended up resigning. And I remember getting a phone, and then I think it was about 2 weeks before that I'd phoned Rog and said, listen, I can't do it anymore. Listen, I can't play. That's me done. And that, so I'd literally stepped away for 2 weeks. But then obviously Roger resigned. And I remember having a call from the chairman, Elwyn Priest, who phoned me to say, would I be interested in coming and taking on Newtown with Graham Evans, who was the reserve manager, just for the short term. I hadn't really thought about, taking the manager's job. And then obviously, I think 4.5 years later, I'd obviously gone through my badges then, do you know what I mean? And obviously, managed Newtown in the Welsh Premier, which was, like I say, fantastic experience. Do you know what I mean? A lot of people ask me, would you go into management again? And I say no. It either made me weekend, or it broke me weekend. Do you know what I mean? It was that emotional for me. Do you know what I mean? I'd either be on a high if we'd won, or I'd be, overthinking things. I found I couldn't switch off, and I found it tough at times, if I'm being honest. Through that, at certain times. But the support, the club is fantastic. The support I got of Elwyn Priest was fantastic, and all the directors there. And obviously, like I say, signed some really good players, who I played against, and that, and some young players that come through. Do you know what I mean? But it was a fantastic experience. And I listen, I can't speak highly enough of the club, and I really enjoyed it.
And Airbus UK, because you were bouncing back and forth with Newtown and Airbus.
Yeah.
There's also Northwich Victoria as well. But Airbus UK, this is where Wikipedia is not reliable at times, but
Yeah.
it still says that you're still managing Airbus UK. But, it's O'Shaughnessy it is. But how long was you there at your second spell at Airbus UK? How long were you for?
Yeah, well, I'd obviously, because obviously then I left. I'll tell you this, because obviously Newtown, it come to the end. I'd done the pre-season. Elwyn Priest, the chairman, had left. A new chairman had come in. And listen, I owe no grudges against the chairman or Newtown. He wanted Andy Cale in, obviously, which I wish they'd have been, being a bit honest with me. I was obviously, sacked or I resigned. I got resigned. And then obviously I went obviously then to Wolves part-time in the January. So obviously the following January. And I remember then, obviously I was always in contact with Priestley. Me and Andy Priest, have been friends for many years. He was at Northwich, and I remember him, phoning me that year and saying, listen, I want you to come and come on and do some coaching with me and Jock, with Andy Morrison. So I said, yeah, fine. But obviously then, in the meantime, Andy Kell had left Newtown. So I remember getting a phone call off Newtown to go, right, can you come, do you fancy coming back and managing? And like I say, Newtown's got a massive place in my heart, do you know what I mean? And probably my heart ruled my head then, do you know what I mean? I said, yeah, I'll come back. So then obviously I come back, made contact with some of the players. Then Andy Priest phoned me and then said, oh, I thought you were coming to us. And then I obviously looked at everything. And then I remember, I think it was the day before pre-season, I phoned up Newtown to say I was resigning. I think it might say on there, I think I was in charge for like 40 odd days. And then I just felt, when I looked at it and I spoke about, I didn't want to be a manager again. I didn't want to be a manager. I wanted to be a coach. So I thought the best opportunity for myself was my part-time stuff at Wolves, plus then doing the part-time stuff with Precy and Andy Morrison at Northwich, which was going to let me coach more. Do you know what I mean? So I took that, obviously went down that avenue, and then obviously I got Precy and that were at Northwich. They obviously moved to Airbus, and then I moved with them to do, it was one night a week when I could, really, because obviously I got taken on by Wolves full-time in the August of that year then. So, it was hard for me then to commit to doing the coaching at Northwich and Airbus then.
So I think the final question is, and again, thanks for coming on the show, Darren. No. It's absolute pleasure, speaking to a Barrytown legend, and to have a nice catch up. The final question for me is, which I always ask a lot of people on this podcast: how do you look back on your career?
Enjoyable, very enjoyable career. I've met some fantastic, people who I'm still friends with now. Do you know what I mean? And that's not just playing with, it's people, who I've come into contact, who I've built up friendships, with. Have I got regrets? Yes, definitely regrettable at times on some of the things, probably what I'd done when I was younger. Do you know what I mean? And did I fulfill my full potential? Probably not. But, like I say, I've had, fantastic career, do you know what I mean? In the pro game and in the semi-pro game. And like I say, and now I'm trying to transfer that and support and help the players that throughout the academy that I work with, do you know what I mean? And if I can give them some advice on certain situations, what I've been through, that's great, do you know what I mean? But like I said, it's, I've really enjoyed, my time. And what, I'm not just saying it because you're on there, but one of the best times of my footballing career is my time at Barrytown. Do you know what I mean? What we achieved them 2 seasons I was there with the team and the staff and the supporters, it's the highlight of my footballing career.
So Darren, thank you so much for coming on the Drag Stories podcast to talk about your career. I really do appreciate it, and wish you all the very best.
No, thanks a lot. It's been an absolute pleasure.
No worries. So guys, that was Darren Ryan on the Dragon's Voice podcast. And make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Make sure you follow us on Twitter and on Facebook. So again, I'll leave links in the below. Make sure you follow us on Podbean. We're very new and we've all got the episodes up to date. So make sure you listen out, and just thank you for the support. And we will see you next time. Take care.